Valentine. Richie Valens? Nah, let's not go that far. All right, guys, welcome to the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. I'm your host, Will Santana, and
I'm Mike Russo, and with enemies like you, who needs friends?
Mike, man, who we got with us today?
Oh, we have a very special return guest. Our listeners might remember back when we recorded A Merchant of Menace, we had Tiffany on, and we're welcoming her back tonight. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi.
What up, Tiff? Yeah, Tiff, you were highly requested to come back, so you were asked for this episode, which I was cool with, and I'm a little mad because this is Morgana, but you're cool with me because you love Morgana. That was one of the first conversations we ever had, you know?
And I'm just sitting here loving Negaduck, so that's fine by me.
Yeah, this is a good treat episode. we get Eek and Squeak, we get Archie, we got Gosalyn. No LP though, right?
No.
Man, no LP in this episode. No honker, but it's a good episode though, man. Honestly, we're not supposed to be rating this early, but Mike, I have to spoil. This is a top 10 episode for me, man.
Depending on my mood, this might get into my top 10 too. I know it's a lot of people's favorite episode.
Mm-hmm. Tiff, is it in your top 10 or?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I love this episode.
So we'll give actual ratings later.
Yeah, we'll rate them later. Before we get into the episode, we have a female with us today, and I wanted to flip the script on her a little bit. Tiff, what is the sweetest thing you've ever done for a guy on Valentine?
It's a little tricky, but I guess I'm going to go all the way back to when I was 20 years old, and I decided to go full on cheesy Valentine's Day, and I bought like all of those really cheesy Valentine's Day stuff from like CVS, like all the little pink and red bears and chocolates and cards and like goofy little dancing creatures and stuff like that, and I surprised him with all that stuff.
Aw.
Okay, Mike, what is you do? I'm gonna let you choose, Mike, because we're guys. We're expected to do sweet things for females. I'll give you the choice. You can choose what a female's done for you or what you done for a female.
To be, you know what? Honestly, the sweetest thing I like to do is just make my wife dinner.
Okay.
On Valentine's Day, I like to cook. I like to cook dinner, and Valentine's Day I don't really treat as a major holiday. It is what it is. But I always like just making dinner and just having a nice, relaxing evening. Honestly.
Okay. You keep it simple, huh?
Yeah. Keep it simple.
All right.
How about you?
I think the sweetest thing for me, oh man, please, my wife does not listen to this podcast, so I might get away with it. I think it was back when I was in high school, and the girl I was dating at the time, she went to a different high school than me, but she would always tell me her locker number and her locker combination. I never understood why. She would always give it to me. And one day I took it upon myself. I was like, I know her combination. I know her locker. So I bought a dozen roses. And back then we had 6 classes during high school. So I actually snuck into her school between every period and put 2 roses in there in her locker. So by the end of the day, after her 6th period, she had all a dozen.
You big softy.
Yeah, but
that's really sweet.
Do not tell the wifey.
I'm telling. That's it.
All right, but okay, enough of that, Mike, man. Let's just get on to this episode because I know you guys have a lot to talk about. You got your Negaduck. Tiffany has her Morgana. So we still don't see her feet. I'm gonna go ahead and get that out of the way.
We are obsessed with feet on this podcast.
We're never gonna see her feet, man. Oh, last thing. You know what? Before we go, I want one last thing. Tiffany, on a scale 1 through 10, how do you rate the Let's Get Dangerous episode?
I would give it a 10.
Oh, 10? Okay.
I loved it. I mean, am I rating it as far as Ducktales 2017 episodes? I'd give it a 10.
All right. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the episode. Mike, what is the name of this episode?
My Valentine Ghoul.
Oh, okay. So, Mike, what's our production and air date order?
All right. So, very appropriately, this one aired Friday, February 14th, 1992. And Tiffany, what holiday is that?
Valentine's Day.
Sure was. Oh, I just want to mention right off the bat, a lot of people think Darkwing Duck episodes and most of these Disney shows just aired for 13 consecutive weeks and they just burned off all their episodes by November. But if that was the case, this episode wouldn't have aired on Valentine's Day. So, and the Christmas one wouldn't have aired on Christmas. So, no, if you guys who are listening ever see an air date list of Darkwing Duck episodes that don't have any gaps and end in November, that's wrong because it doesn't even make sense. This episode was 64th by production number, which puts it one above Dances with Bigfoot, the latest one we've done so far. Again, numbers don't mean that much, but still 64, that's super, super low. And our story editor for this episode was Kevin Crosby Hops. We're getting down to the end of his work on this show. He's almost done being a story editor for this series. Interestingly, the writer for this episode was Doug Langdale, and he's actually about to take over for Kevin Hops as the story editor on Darkwing Duck. Funny story for our listeners who might even remember this. This episode was originally supposed to be written by Jim Peterson, Rob Humphreys, and John Benke. They wrote the outline for this one, but then were pulled off the episode so they could work on It's a Wonderful Leaf to have that one ready for Christmas. So instead of them, Doug Langdale was put on this episode to write it. And he's a really good writer. Right, Tiff?
Yep.
I love his episodes. So, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about my little anecdote about when this episode came out.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
So when this was airing, my mom was like, "We have to go to your aunt's house and stay there." And I was like, "I'm gonna miss Darkwing Duck. That's not acceptable." And I was trying to figure out how to.
Not acceptable. I can't accept that.
Yeah. And the reason why it was an issue was because my aunt and my cousins, they were really religious, and they didn't watch any TV except for religious cartoons. And it was all on VHS. So I had to ask my mom to bring over a little TV. And I had to go and like lock myself in the guest room at my aunt's house to watch this episode by myself, laughing hysterically, and my cousins couldn't watch it.
Would they have had a problem with the episode's content, considering Morgana's a witch and they have dinner in a graveyard?
I'm sure they would have had
a lot
of issues about it.
That's a great story.
Yeah, I'll never forget that.
And animation, we have Sun Woo. This is the last of their consecutive 5 episodes, so we're not going to see them for a while after this one. Tiffany, what do you think of the animation in this episode?
I actually think it's pretty good. I mean, it's not spectacular, but there's nothing. I mean, there's maybe one coloring error.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
And I think that's it. It looks pretty good. One spot, I guess, where Morgana's mouth looks a little weird.
It's not flashy, nothing crazy, but this is good for Sun Woo.
Yeah.
It's hard to go wrong when you have all these characters in it. Again, we got Morgana, and with her, she brings back Archie, Eek, and Squeak, and of course, we have our villain, who really makes this episode work. Before we get into the plot, I want to mention one, actually, I guess it's a mistake. This episode has the wrong credits, and anybody who listened to me and Bill Yadesky talk about twitching channels, and we mentioned how the credits are totally wrong, and we don't know who voiced the characters in the episode. Turns out, Twitching Channel's credits are attached to this episode. So I don't know what happened there, but I don't know. It is what it is. So let's start talking about this plot. This is a hilarious episode. I cannot wait to start talking about it. Why don't you start? How do we start off?
So it's Morgana and Darkwing, and they're having a spooky romantic dinner in a cemetery.
Don't you love the music that starts this episode off?
Yeah.
It's really a motif. Good. It's a motif they use several times in this episode. I think it might have been recorded for this episode.
Yeah, and the backgrounds are really nice too, all throughout this episode.
Yeah. So what happens?
So Morgana is pining over Darkwing, and they get their food handed to them, and it's a skeleton from a grave handing them a creepy crawly egg-looking octopus gross sort of dinner.
Do you really blame Darkwing for just not being into this meal? Like, this starts a thing now with Darkwing where he doesn't like Morgana's food, and they're gonna bring this back like months from now. But I can't blame him.
Yeah, I'm surprised he humors her and pretends to, try to eat it.
Well, that's love, right? Oh, yeah. And who's watching them?
Gosalyn and Eek and Squeak are watching them from behind a tombstone.
Gosalyn's a little bit tacked on in this episode, but I do think her involvement leads to some of the funniest stuff in this episode, so I'll kind of forgive it.
Yeah.
And so Darkwing's head isn't in this romantic meal. All he's thinking about is a diamond thefts all over St. Canard. His mind's on that, not Morgana. And Morgana is like, I can help you, I'll help you. And this again starts a thing where Darkwing is just a big jerk and keeps putting his foot in his mouth and just keeps saying these hurtful things.
Yeah, I feel like this is the episode that really solidifies kind of the somewhat toxic Darkwing-Morgana relationship.
Yeah, like Ghoul of my dreams, she's just a hottie, and he totally is falling apart whenever she's around. But now he's just a jerk, and she has no patience for him.
Yeah.
So yes, toxic relationship. So what goes down?
It's pretty amazing. I mean, they don't really get that complex into like stuff that's so similar to a real relationship in any Disney stuff. This is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's actually pretty true. There isn't really much in the way of romantic relationships up until this point.
Yeah.
Because Baloo and Becky never became an item, so this is as close as we've gotten so far. Mm-hmm. So Darkwing tells Morgana she gets in his way. Like, he pretty much just says, you get in my way. Morgana immediately loses it on him. Like, just loses it. And zaps him into this weird slug-looking thing. Like, her patience snapped just like that.
Yeah.
So basically the fireworks start. And, there's Negaduck. They don't make us wait too long to see Negaduck. Negaduck is spying on a man proposing to his girlfriend because he's looking at the diamond ring he's got.
Myrtle.
Myrtle, right. Her name is Myrtle. What happens to Myrtle?
She gets randomly caught in the crossfire of Morgana's magic and turns into a really disgusting, like, dog warty creature.
Looks like a mutant Goofy.
I couldn't stop laughing at that as a kid. I thought that was so funny.
I wouldn't call it a mistake, but there's a weird thing that happens here. The guy runs away with holding the ring, and then there's a really cheap looking like digital wipe.
Yeah.
And then you see Negaduck just standing there holding the ring.
I always thought that was weird too. It seemed like maybe they cut out a scene or something.
They must have. But I know things get cut out of the episodes, but this must have happened super late in the game, and they had to just do this just to cover it up.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what happened. Well, anyway, Negaduck notices what's going on, and I don't know if we've established they're having dinner in a graveyard. So he sneaks in to see what's going on. And, he notices Morgana. He gets an idea. And then Darkwing says the most hurtful thing he possibly could have said to Morgana.
Yeah.
Tiffany, what does he say to her?
He says, "This is just the sort of immature behavior I would expect from an ex-crook.
And then when she gets really mad, he backs himself into a corner, and what does he say?
He says,
He says, some people never really change.
Oh, yeah. That's the line. Once a crook, always a crook.
And he catches himself, and he tries so hard to worm his way out of it. He goes, I don't say it. Other people said it.
They say it.
I wish they were here now.
I wish they were here.
And then she tells him they're through, and then zaps him, and he's done. And she leaves, and Gosalyn's, she's like, we have to get these two back together. And Gosalyn does something I really don't like. What, Tiffany?
Oh, seemingly they broke up.
Yeah. Gosalyn does one of those things I don't like that much. She winks directly at the audience.
There's a few fourth wall breaks in this, actually.
It's Gosalyn, though. I don't really mind it. So Morgana goes home, and she's seething. She doesn't want anything to do with Darkwing Duck until there's a knock on the door and the doorbell rings.
Yeah, then she's all trying to get ready and put makeup on.
What does she use as a makeup? What does she use as a powder puff?
Archie.
Oh, poor Archie. Archie is just so mad at the whole world.
Yeah.
Oh, and Archie, of course, is voiced by Frank Welker, who just sounds like a very angry Bubba Duck.
Yeah, and you can always understand what he's saying, even though it's all gibberish.
Yeah. So this is great timing. I love. She thinks it's Darkwing at the door, and the second she opens the door, you hear dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Negaduck. It's Negaduck, and this whole sequence now is just a masterpiece in voice acting from Jim. Because what is Negaduck doing?
He is trying to court Morgana.
But with the most pathetic sob story.
Yeah, pretending that he's reformed just like her, trying to appeal to her situation that she's in because he was spying on them.
Yeah, and he's throwing himself on the couch, and he's like, "You used to be a crook."
And that's when you get the other, him laughing at the camera.
It's so funny, like, especially the second time when he just leans over his shoulder and laughs.
Yeah.
And it is the one scene where he throws himself over the couch and just looks so pathetically at her with his eyes full of tears.
Yeah.
Like, it's such great acting. Oh, I love it. And then he grabs Morgana and embraces her. And then Darkwing walks in with a bouquet. And he's from his point of view, we see Negaduck hugging her, but he's like staring daggers at Darkwing.
Yeah, that look on his face is great.
And the flowers immediately wilt.
Yeah. Ay.
It's like, this is like 5 minutes or so of we're just in one room with the characters talking, but we don't need anything else. It's just, that's how funny it is.
Yeah.
Like we basically have Jim playing off each other, and then we have Kath, who's just still fantastic as Morgana.
Yeah.
So Darkwing has this moment of true vulnerability when he's like, "What do you want from Negaduck? Sure, he's well dressed, fabulously wealthy, but I am desperate.
On the other hand, am desperate."
He throws himself at her feet, and he's begging her to take him back.
I remember that when my dad thought that was like the most hilarious line ever. When I was a kid.
He's jealous of Negaduck.
Because he's that full of himself.
Mm-hmm. I mean, fabulous. I mean, he's a snappy dresser. It's the same outfit.
Yeah.
So Darkwing, says, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Let me take you out. And Negaduck's like, yeah, we'll all go together. And it's like, come on. It's like, But Morgana is so dead set on proving to Darkwing that people can change that she's fallen for this garbage. And in a weird way, they're both wrong. Darkwing's wrong. People can change. But Morgana is wrong because some people cannot change.
Yeah.
So they're both wrong. So where do we go next? Where's our next scene take place?
So then they go to the carnival.
Right.
Yeah, a carnival.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, this carnival's nothing but a bunch of creeps, mutants, and misfits, just like my last family reunion.
We're not going to meet Morgana's family, right, Tiffany?
Not.
No, we're never going to meet them. We're not going to spend 3 episodes with them next season.
And that's amazing, too.
And they actually... But did we see Quackerjack in season 2? No. Sorry, Will. But she asked them if they're having a good time. And they're like, yes, no.
Yeah.
And Negaduck grabs a feather and tickles the fire eater, and he breathes fire all over Darkwing. And Darkwing is so PO'd, he doesn't even flinch.
Yeah.
He just has this mad look on his face.
And they're all burnt.
Yeah, and Negaduck has his arm around him. Like, what I love about this episode is that Negaduck in most other episodes is just this evil guy. But here, he's still evil. But he's playing like he's a good guy so that you can see more layers to him, which is so much fun. Like, you never get to see Negaduck buddying around with Darkwing Duck. This is our one chance.
And I had to make art of that moment.
You did, and I love that. The art of him with his arm around him. Basically, when it went, no, yes,
yeah,
with his arm around him. That was really cool art.
Thanks.
So they leave. Well, Darkwing goes to skewer Negaduck with a sword, and Morgana catches him in the act. But they leave, and Gosalyn's still trailing along. So they decide to go on the Tunnel of Love.
Or Negaduck encourages them to go on the Tunnel of Love.
Yeah, that's one of those cartoon things. Like, every cartoon has a Tunnel of Love, and I have never seen one in real life.
Yeah, me either.
Maybe I haven't gone to enough backwater amusement parks where those things are actually around. But yeah, he encourages them, and Darkwing's like, thanks, I guess. Tell everyone about the Tunnel of Love sequence, Tiffany.
So they go through the Tunnel of Love, and Morgana is being sweet and wants to kiss Darkwing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's all shy and says, yeah, sure, I guess. And Negaduck, meanwhile, is creeping behind a giant stone cupid statue.
The act break is great. Like, he's pulling back on the arrow.
Yeah.
And what does Negaduck say? Oh, you can trust me, Darkwing. Trust me to obliterate you.
And then he says, Happy Valentine's Day, Darkwing Dunce.
No, he says Sappy Valentine's Day.
Oh, Sappy Valentine's Day.
He does fire the arrow.
Yeah, and Darkwing gets shot away. Morgana opens her eyes and sees that Darkwing's gone and says, well, for his sake, I hope he went to get a breath mint.
Oh, I love the end of that. She's so put out.
Totally.
But that scene of the boat sailing toward the camera with the animated backgrounds, it's like she's on a roller coaster. She's moving so fast.
Yeah.
Every other scene when it's an actual painted background, they're moving very slow. But this one shot when everything is animated, she is just flying toward the screen. So she gets off the boat, and Negaduck's like, you just missed Darkwing. He asked you to come along, but once a crook, always a crook. And when she asks him if Darkwing really said that, he doesn't say a word. He just looks back at her and nods his head. Like, he's such a jerk. He's such a jerk. He's so evil. I love him so much. Okay, so now we break away from our demented love triangle to spend some time with Gosalyn. It's the only time in the episode I think everything slows down a bit. So what happens with Gosalyn?
She flies away to I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like, she gets taken away by Eek and Squeak, and then it's implied that they said they're taking her to the spell book.
Yeah.
And they go to Morgana's house, and it's called the Quack-Renomicon.
Well, you can call
Or
him
you
Quack.
call me Quacky.
We do have a voice actor that we haven't talked about on this podcast yet, but because the credits are wrong and IMDb didn't pick up on it, this person has not been mentioned. This is Howard Morris. This is a legendary voice actor. He was born in 1919. He passed away in 2005. One of those guys who, as I've said many, many times, was in a little bit of everything, especially for Hanna-Barbera back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. For our purposes as Disney fans, he was the original voice of Gopher from the Winnie the Pooh featurettes. Remember him?
Yeah.
He was also Wade Duck from Garfield and Friends. That's how I knew him growing up.
Mm.
So he voices the Spellbook. And the only reason I knew it was him is the Spellbook has the same voice as the genie from the Ducktales episode Master of the Djinn.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how I knew. He has that same goofy don't you know voice. So I knew right away that was Howard Morris.
It's kind of like a Mad Hatter impersonation a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, not quite, but that seems to be where he's going with that voice.
Yeah.
So what does Gosalyn do?
She says that she needs a love potion, and he is like, boy problems, eh?
No, it's for my dad.
Yeah, right. And,
So,
yeah, she tells her the ingredients.
Including slug knuckles.
Yeah.
Whenever Christine talks like that. Slug knuckles.
I don't know if you could consider this an error, but yeah, they say like 3 newt's eyes, cup of pureed toad, 12 slugs knuckles, and then a scene later she says, "This stuff stinks, must be the monkey drool." And you're like,
yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
say that ingredient.
That wasn't part of this disgusting recipe. As she pours it into a sprayer, she spills a tiny drop on Archie, who falls in love with one of the bats. And you hear Archie, hubba, hubba, hubba. Aw, Bubba's in love. But it wears off super quick, which is important. We have to remember that.
Yeah, the more potion, the longer it lasts.
Yeah. And I think that's the end of the book. We don't hear from the book again.
Yeah, he
So,
poops out of existence.
Yes, he does leave. And then Morgana shows up and thanks Negaduck for the ride home. And I just would love just to spend a minute with the two of them driving home. Like what they talked about. What vehicle was he driving?
That's totally what I keep thinking of too.
Like were they using his Negacycle?
Like?
But what's great, and I love this, it's like he's not even trying to be subtle anymore. Like his head is poking into the door. He goes, "Morgana, have you ever thought of turning back to a life of crime?" And his teeth
get all sharp.
And she closes the door in his face. Yeah, and at this point, Negaduck doesn't know the meaning of the word no.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know. No means no, Negaduck, you creeper.
He bursts through the door.
And he grabs her, she vanishes, and she appears somewhere else. His arm grows the entire length of the screen, pulls her back, and as she's flopping in his arms, they play a sound effect of a fish flopping around. Because that's what her body looks like, because she has no feet. This show's use of sound effects is so incredible. And as she's telling Negaduck she only, he bursts down the door to get in. And as she's telling Negaduck she only has eyes for Darkwing, Darkwing walks into the house and just looks at the door like, what happened here?
Yeah.
So Gosalyn's like, you know what? I don't want Dad to explain. He's going to make this worse. She goes to spray. Morgana but hits Darkwing. This is my favorite scene in the entire episode, where this ends up going.
Yeah.
What does Darkwing do for Negabuddy?
Negaduck, buddy. He puts him in a robe, a blue robe with fuzzy slippers.
It's ducky slippers too.
Yeah, duck slippers.
And
of all things.
In one moment, Negaduck's eyes bulge out, and he has this giant mouth of huge, sharp teeth. And there is what I think might be an animation mistake when Negaduck says, "I don't know what you're trying to pull, Darkwing." His mouth doesn't move.
Yeah,
But
I always wondered if it was that or if it was he's so mad that his jaw was like clenched shut.
yeah, gritted teeth. And okay, my favorite solitary scene in the whole episode. He tells Darkwing to jump off a cliff, and Darkwing runs out the window. You see him run up to the top of the cliff and literally just run off the side of the cliff, and he screams Geronimo, and then you hear the funniest sound effect when he hits the ground.
Yeah, that animation is great.
And then you see Negaduck looking out the window. He goes, all this time, all I had to do was ask. So Darkwing does come back. The love potion wears off, and the two of them start fighting.
Yeah, well, before that, you see him kissing Morgana's arm, and one of the best, like, subtle moments is, like, Morgana just raising her fist like she's gonna punch him.
Oh, like she's gonna punch him. Yeah, I do. You don't really notice it, but she does raise her fist.
Yeah.
And
I love
then
that.
Negaduck and Darkwing go at it. There's a huge fight cloud. That ends when Negaduck grabs a serving tray and just slams Darkwing over the head with it. And I can't quite do it. I tried months ago in an episode, but I love it when Jim goes like that.
Yeah, totally.
When he does that sound, but he sustains it this time. He does it for like 3 or 4 seconds.
It's a really long one.
If I try, I can do it, but I'm wearing my headphones. I can't do that right now. But then Morgana's done. She tries to freeze Negaduck, but hits Darkwing. And then when she tries again, she hits the serving tray and freezes herself.
Yeah.
And Negaduck's line, "Nice shooting, Annie Oakley. With enemies like you, who needs friends?" Yeah. Oh, every single thing Negaduck says is gold.
Yeah, that line is great.
So Negaduck carries Morgana out of there, and that's how we end our second act. And then take it from here, Tiffany. What does Gosalyn do?
She defrosts Darkwing.
And we don't really see it's like the camera is kind of it's not focused correctly, but she obviously burns him because you see him fly out of the top of the house screaming.
Yeah.
And next, our animation mistake. We see Negaduck in a candy factory chipping Morgana out of the ice, and for one shot, he's painted like Darkwing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's this episode's version of the Negaverse when he pops out of the cake and he's painted like Negaduck.
Totally.
Not as distracting though.
Yeah.
So, what's Negaduck's master plan?
So he has the National Nega Sweets Candy Factory, which he is smuggling diamonds in these Valentine's Day candy boxes. And yeah, that's it. I think.
Well, what does he need Morgana for?
Oh, he wants Morgana to turn the diamonds into boulders, the size of boulders.
There's a really cool animation touch. He holds up the diamond and you see Morgana's reflection in it. And she has dialogue and starts to walk away and you see it reflected in the diamond.
Yeah, I love that.
And she puts her foot down. So he's done. He's done playing the nice guy. He basically covers her in chocolate and solidifies her in it. And we finally get an I Am the Terror.
Well, first he says, "I always loved women with good taste."
Oh, Negaduck. You're going to be single for the rest of your life. So Darkwing shows up and his line is, "I am the lollipop that sticks in your hair." He doesn't get to announcing himself because Negaduck hits him with chocolate too. And my favorite line in the entire episode, he goes, "Well, if it isn't chocolate dip Duck.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's great. And then Gosalyn shows up and hits herself with a love potion, and she falls in love with Negaduck, and so do Eek and Squeak.
Yeah.
They all fall in love
all
with him.
together.
And so she hits Darkwing and Morgana. He got them out with his buzzsaw cufflinks.
Yeah.
When I interviewed Jim Peterson for the Bushroot episode a few weeks back, he mentioned he wrote the buzzsaw cufflinks line and didn't think they ever used it again. And I said to him, they do get back to it. And at the time, I did not remember the episode, and it's this one. He says, once again, saved by my buzzsaw cufflinks.
Isn't there another one?
It might be. I wonder if the three of them, Jim, Rob, and John, wrote that in their outline before they left this episode, because it's like they remembered it.
Yeah.
Because he used those when he first fought Bushroot, way back. So it's cool they remember it. But so Gosalyn hits both of them, Darkwing and Morgana, with very sticky frosting and traps them. And then when she comes out of the love potion, she tries to escape, and Negaduck hits her with it too. And then shows them the frosting is actually very flammable too. High
Low
octane.
calorie, high octane.
And how do we end? How do
Um,
they defeat Negaduck?
so they take the love potion. Morgana asks if she could borrow the gas gun from Darkwing.
My gas gun? My
personal gas gun. He's being a jerk. And she says, for once in your life, trust me. And puts the love potion, shoots it, gets Negaduck, and he falls in love with Morgana.
You know what we get for the very first time?
Honey Wumpus.
Honey Wumpus. I thought I was a little Honey Wumpus. Honey Wumpus. Who came up with that?
I don't know.
Oh, I feel like it's like I feel like it's a tadism. It's like gotta be. It's so great, Honey Wumpus. So Negaduck's in love with her, and she puts a jawbreaker in his mouth, and then socks him right in the jaw.
One broken jaw coming up.
He falls into his own machine and gets slammed into a box of chocolate, and then terrible pun. Darkwing says, "What does he say?"
No, I guess that's what I'd call a bittersweet ending.
Negaduck's defeat are always so embarrassing. Like, as evil as he is and how everybody plays him off as like the scariest, evilest guy, every single time he's defeated, it's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
I hate to be Negaduck. I mean, this isn't as bad as the time he fell down the stairs. A few episodes from now, he falls down the stairs.
Yeah.
And that's how he's defeated. So how does this one end? What's our last scene?
So then they go back to their date at the cemetery restaurant, and Morgana says, "Happy Valentine's Day, Honey Wumpus."
Aww.
And he asks to order for him, and Darkwing gets a little nervous.
Here, I don't blame him. Because come on, let him just have some fried chicken or something. Well, that's weird. Let him have a burger or a taco. But yeah, he's like, you always order that crawly thing, and then she goes after him again, and Gosalyn's last line, bit of a groaner, but it's Gosalyn's last line. What does she say?
You always hurt the one you love.
Whatever, it's Gosalyn, I'll allow it. Man, Tiffany, I love this episode so much. It's so great. Like, it's funny. It has some of the biggest fan favorite characters in it. And it's like, it's just terrific. It really, really is. Let's just go ahead and rate it, because I know you love it. I want you to rate it first.
Wait, it's out of 5?
Yes, out of 5 gas gun canisters, yes.
Yeah, I would give it 5 gas gun canisters. It's hilarious. It's one of the funniest episodes, I think, for sure. And yeah, great characters. I don't really have any complaints. It's like the only complaints are the slight animation errors.
That's nothing. At least it wasn't animated by Kennedy Cartoons.
Yeah.
I noticed all like the best written character episodes always went to Sun Woo.
Yeah.
Most of the Morgana episodes went to Sun Wu, as a matter of fact. So my rating, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna give this a 5.2.
Nice.
Like, this is great. The writing, Doug Langdale is like a fantastic writer. He really, really is. And Negaduck is fantastic. Morgana, like, it was a stroke of brilliance putting Morgana and Negaduck together like this. It works so well. It's just, it's funny. It's just really funny. I love it. 5. That's it. I hear a voice.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I'm not quite giving it the
What?
5. Yeah,
You just can't do it.
I can't do it. I love this episode. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I especially love how you get the Morgana and Negaduck, and then you even get the moment where Darkwing is in love with Negaduck, and he's like, "Why don't you run off a cliff?" And he does it. Oh my God,
Flat.
It's just so hilarious, man. This episode is just great, man. I'm giving it 4.5. It's just kind of like what you guys said with the bad animation, and it's not quite like a villainous episode, so that takes it down a notch for me, just a tad bit. But other than that, this is a top 10 episode for me, Mike.
Yep, I would say so too. It's not, if I wasn't gonna count Fungus Among Us, which is hard not to because I love that one.
Mm-hmm.
This might be my favorite Morgana episode. I'm not sure if it's my favorite Negaduck, but that because the Negaverse episode exists. But as far as solo Negaduck, I think this might be my favorite solo Negaduck. So it scores really high for me for that too.
Yeah. Which episode you think is the most iconic of Morgana's?
Morgana's?
Mm-hmm.
Fungus Among Us.
Gotta be Fungus Among Us, yeah.
Not the other one?
Ghoul of My Dreams?
No, the band one.
Oh, Hot Spells? You know what? There's so much going on in Hot Spells. It's hard to even classify it as a Morgana episode. It's really a Gosalyn episode,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gosalyn's really the star of that one. Her and Beelzebub. It's not really Morgana's show.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But, this is, I think the best, after Fungus Among Us, this is the best Morgana show.
Yeah, definitely. Tiff, are you ever going to come back on here? We got to get you back up on here again, man.
I know. I want to.
Let us know if there's any ones coming up you want to do.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love to do. Wait, did you do Dead Duck yet?
Oh, that's next week.
That's next week.
Oh my God.
My all-time favorites.
I love that one.
I think depending on my mood, Dead Duck might be in my top 5.
It's top 10 for me, definitely, easily.
Like, everything is going for that episode. It's got great. The last great episode animated in Japan. It's got Morgana in it. It's got 3 great voice actors making their appearance in this one. Guest voice actors. I love it. I'm not going to say more because I'll have a lot to say next week.
Yeah. I don't want to get it too much into it because I'll be here another hour talking about Dead Duck.
It's funny how Tiffany segued us right into next week's episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, Mike, for the people listening to us for the first time, where can they check us out at?
We are really, really privileged to be on every podcast app. Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, Amazon, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and, of course, YouTube. And, of course, you can speak into your Alexa, and she'll play the newest episode for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's everything. There's probably so many more, but, I have to cut it off at some point.
Okay. All right. I only got a few shout outs today. I'm going to give a shout out to our homegirl Vix. She's been kicking it with us and she's been inviting a lot of new people to our page. And then to our Canadian friend Jordan Ferber.
Hi, Jordan.
Yeah. So those are my 2 shout outs for today. That's it. Appreciate you appreciate you being on here with us today, Tiff. Maybe we'll get you next week with Dead Duck if your schedule ain't so busy.
If
You've
you're
been really
able to
busy
do
lately.
it, Tiff.
Yeah, she's been really busy lately. She's been hard to get in contact with.
Yeah.
But she had to clear her schedule for this one.
Oh yeah.
Kind of.
Well,
I'm actually behind, but I kind of accepted today as a behind day. Yeah. Well, should I say my social media stuff?
Yeah, yes. Go for it. Definitely plug yourself.
Plug yourself.
So I am on the main one is Instagram at Tiffany Silver Braun or Regurgitating Gertie.
I love that.
or The Silver Maid. And Facebook too. Tiffany Silver Braun, or Silver Tiffany Braun.
You got a YouTube channel too, don't you?
Oh yeah, I got a YouTube channel, is Radioact Tiffany, and
I like that.
yeah, that's like my art YouTube.
Your art is really cool.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
Yeah, she just posted that Spy versus Spy Darkwing. I love that thing. I love it.
Yay. I thought it was fitting because it was from this episode.
Yeah, we mentioned it. Well, Negaduck has an arm around Darkwing. That's the one. That's what she did.
Okay. All right, but guys, thank y'all for tuning in, and maybe we'll get lucky and have Tiff again next week. But Dead Ducks coming up, man. That's a big one. I love that one, man. Top 10 for me. And it's underrated. It is definitely underrated. People don't talk about that episode.
They should.
Yeah. All right, guys, make sure y'all watch Let's Get Dangerous from the new Ducktales, and stay dangerous.
I'm going to get a breath mint.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.